I know we're late, so I talk about kind of brain farts. I went to get everything set up for the show, and I got buzzed because a patient was here that I totally forgot to change on my appointments. So as you guys filter in, that's why we're a little bit late today. Which, by the way, we're actually a little bit early today, of course, and that's because we have a friend of the family. They're having their anniversary, and so instead of like putting this off because we put it off for the 4th, I figured we'll try to do it early, and then you can always log on to the videos that we've already done by going to my Facebook page and then go into videos and then videos by, or it's my videos, and that has like, I think Holly and I have done like 70 shows, so it's been quite a few. And so today I want to welcome you guys back. Glad you guys are joining. Please share this with everybody. I'm really, I'm surprised that I get stopped on the street sometimes, or occasionally in a store, and somebody's like, "Hey, I watch your show." So that's kind of cool. And I got stopped at the state fair. Someone ran across the Thoroughway or whatever it is, and was just like, "I watch all your shows." So that's really funny. So anyways, try to share this and like it. As we go through this, let me know if you have questions or comments or concerns. I'll try to watch the feed as we go through this, and we'll get things started. And just a second here. I got... And here's my co-host. Here's Holly. So you guys notice Holly's not here today. So she's taking a little time off. And so we're finishing out the summer. And so we want to talk about the wellness challenge that we've been doing. Now, I tried a couple things this time. Hey, Beverly. I tried a couple cheats. So I've been doing really, really, really good on the wellness challenge. So, I've been trying to do the same thing that I tell patients. And with the exception, and you guys got to hold me accountable, but I haven't been doing the activity as much. So I go for long walks, especially downtown. But I haven't been doing like the running that I need to be doing, and I've been doing a little bit of yoga. Like I did yoga at the park with our meditation group this last Saturday, and that was really awesome. And I gotta say, you show up, and there was like, I think 160 people there by the end, and you're just like, what the hell am I doing here? And luckily there was a few other guys there, and they looked like normal guys. They weren't like hipsters in yoga pants and man buns, so I felt like it was okay. And Scott Spradlin was there, so I thought we'd probably be about the same when it came to yoga. So we are doing this, and we're trying to do all these different poses, and it's so kind of complex. And all these other women there, and there's lots of young women there, they're all dressed in yoga gear. They're like Lululemon, outlet place there, and but they were stumbling too. So I was very, very happy that when I was in a position that they were falling down too. So they look like they're yoga experts, but they're just regular people like me. So that yoga in the park was awesome at the Wichita Museum. And I gotta say, nobody warned me that you might accidentally fart, and so I farted twice. They had you like do downward dog and then bring that foot up really close or really fast, and then go into warrior position. And didn't expect that. So I apologize to the woman that was behind me in yoga. Otherwise, I was hoping it sounded like my mat slipped or something, or maybe my foot scuffed. So I think I hit it pretty well. I don't know. And apparently that's a thing, and nobody told me that either. So they said everybody does it. So I don't know if they were just trying to make me feel good, or but now they're all laughing at me behind my back. So we want to talk a little bit about the health challenge, and then also I want to talk about inflammation night. So I ask you guys all the time, kind of what questions you guys have, what do you guys want to talk about, and over, and I think Jenny had mentioned this the last time we did this. I think she's maybe posted twice, but she wants the inflammation. So usually I have my standard inflammation talk that I do, but tonight we're going to mix it up a little bit also. So if you guys have questions about that, we'll talk about the physiology of it, but we'll also talk about some natural remedies. And if you guys have natural remedies, things that have worked for you, post it, because that's awesome. Hey, there's Kellyanne. Hi, you guys. All right, so I originally did that food sensitivity, and I did the wellness thing because I wanted to be just like my patients, but I also had that chronic pestering cough, and so I did that food sensitivity. Hey, Stacy, and of course I was eating those things, and I had my little downtime, my sad time with that, but just like everybody else, I made it through. I just switched foods, and I've been trying to post all my foods, but I have cheated twice, and I didn't post them. I don't know why I didn't post them. Probably a self-preservation maybe, but I wanted to see. So I've been doing the wellness challenge for a month, right? Eating healthy, no processed food, no fast food, no sodas, no crap, nothing. I just been eating just fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, berries, legumes, greens, least processed stuff. And I gotta say, I feel pretty decent. My cough has gone away, which is awesome, which was the original thing. And of course, I'm fitting in looser clothes, which is nice. And so people made comments, are you losing weight, that kind of stuff. So that's nice. My belt's loose, my pants are a little bit loose, even without exercise at this point, which that's going to be coming up here too. You guys got to hold me accountable to that part, so I can be just like my patients. Yeah, and Edna was talking about the garbanzo salad, but I got that recipe from Crystal Coleman, and she posted it, and I was like, that's awesome, and then she brought me some, which was super nice. But that was with chipotle. She did sriracha chipotle, or sriracha veganese, and I did the chipotle veganese, and oh my god, that was so good. I had that for lunch today again too. So very simple, and I love this week. So I've been doing Indian rice, and I've been doing the chickpea salad. It is dirt stinking cheap to eat healthy. Dirt cheap to eat healthy. So I've been trying to make a point of that because Gordon keeps asking about us talking about that too. So we want to talk about how you can eat dirt cheap and super healthy, because a lot of people think you have to spend a lot of money. So the two things that I ate, I was feeling really good, and so I decided that I was going to eat some mac and cheese. My girls had some mac and cheese left over. They're not supposed to eat it, but they're kids, so they do mostly good and then occasional bad stuff. So there was a mac and cheese in there, and I thought, okay, so we need to do a provocative test. And I've been feeling really good. I've been sleeping really good. Mood's really good. Energy's really good. Not coughing. Let's see what happens if I cheat, right? So I ate, and I was Annie, so it was the healthier version, I guess, if that can be true. But guess what happened? Like, I started coughing, and not then, but later. But then I was watching a movie. I was watching The Peacemaker from the 90s, and I fell asleep. I mean, I was just wide-eyed. I ate that mac and cheese, and then I fell asleep within 30 minutes, and then woke up out of my coma, and then I started coughing. And so I thought, that's a perfect thing. So patients go through this all the time, where they clean up their diet, they feel normal, and then they'll go out to eat, or they'll cheat or something, and then it comes back with a vengeance, so they just feel horrible. And so that's a really good thing. So a lot of people are just like, oh, well, it sucks, but it's good. It's a really good thing, because it shows that's how powerful food is. So imagine someone that eats that way all the time, and they're just kind of sleepy all the time. And what's interesting is that night I went to sleep. The next morning I felt groggy for the first time, and I felt like that thing in your brain says, oh, just drink some coffee. But that's the cycle. Eat stuff that makes you feel brain foggy and tired, try to cope with coffee, and then get to a point where you can't do it anymore. Hey, Carolyn, and Janine, how you guys doing? So that's that cycle that we want to break. And I was doing that before I did this challenge part with you guys. Was I was kind of just starting to eat crap and then drink a lot of coffee, and of course I'm not supposed to do both, and I had the health consequences of that. So anyways, that was one. And then the other night, for whatever reason, I decided I was going to cheat again, and we were having hamburgers. We were playing Cards Against Humanity. I don't know if you guys know that game, but it's super awesome game, especially if you think like I do. So they were having hamburgers, and so I was just going to eat the burger and no bun like I normally do. But I thought, I'm gonna just eat normal and see what happens, or eat like everybody else does. And then sure enough, the rest of the night I kept hacking and coughing, and I coughed the next day. And so it lasted like 24 hours of just kind of stuff in your throat. So that was pretty good. So this month I've been doing clean everything, eating clean, and then I cheated a couple times, and sure enough, everything came back with a vengeance. Oh, that's the other thing. If you want to know too much, like TMI, right? So not only did I like fall asleep during that movie, and then I woke up like an hour later after cheating with that mac and cheese. That night I woke up with horrible stomach pains, cramping, and then diarrhea. And I sat on that pot for like an hour, from like 12 to 1. So I'm sure you guys want to know that, right? All right. Yep. Oh, the other thing is I posted a video, and I know some of you guys made comments that I'm not supposed to have coffee. So I don't know why, but I really wanted to make coffee kombucha. I've been thinking about this for a long time, and then the other weekend I felt great, and I was just like, I'm going to try to make it. So not for me, but I want to try to do we need to figure out a time we can do a kombucha demo. Like, find a place, like, where do you guys think we should have one? And I know several of you guys have said you want a kombucha demo in the evening, so you guys can go to work and get off and do that. Maybe a Saturday we could do. And then I want to bring my coffee kombucha so you guys can try it. And I thought that I was like something new. I thought this was awesome. Like I created something. And so we're playing cards with our friends, and the guy starts talking about kombucha. And he's pretty funny. We might have him on our show, but he has he shaved his beard off, so he's this kind of like hipster mustache now, and hair. He looks like a cop from Super Troopers, but he was talking about he does kombucha, and so I was like, oh, that's interesting. How'd you get started? All this kind of stuff, and then he talks about how he made coffee kombucha. And I was like, damn it, I came up with that, not you. So I guess it's not my thing. So I want to do a workshop, and we can do kombucha, and then you guys can try it. And I posted that video on my Facebook feed. So if you guys want to go back and look at it, you can see what it looks like. And we'll have to get Sherry to try it, because Sherry, she'll try anything healthy, I think. And so Beverly says Saturday morning. I think that's a good time. I'm off on Saturdays, so we can do that. So I'll figure out a time. Let me know as you guys go through, like a better day or evening. Usually, like maybe a Thursday evening might work. That's about the only evening I have off, besides maybe the weekend. So let's figure out something. The other thing too, and I put this at the end, is if there's other workshops that we should do, let me know. So like a foodie kind of workshop. Like anything that you guys can think of that you think would be beneficial to others, feel free to post it or message me on Facebook, because we want to do more interactive things together. Beverly posted something. Yeah. Yeah, not Wednesdays or Friday. Wednesday's always hard because that's church night. So we have our topic tonight, and this is a webinar or live feed. So I know a lot of you guys watch this afterwards, but for the people that are here, feel free to interact. So if you guys have questions that you want us to talk about, even if it's slightly off topic, that's perfectly fine. Do I rarely go off topic? Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about inflammation. So we had lots of requests for inflammation over and over and over. What do you guys think? Is inflammation good or is inflammation bad? And other questions too is, how are you guys doing that are doing the food challenges too, or doing the wellness challenge this summer? What struggles do you guys have? What questions do you have? Again, even if they're off topic, you notice I've been trying to make different foods. I've been posting different foods. So if you have questions, shoot. And Sarah Young, I haven't seen her on here yet, but Sarah Young, she's been posting a lot of her stuff in Dr. G's Neighborhood, which is the site, that Facebook page that Amy Simpson set up for people that have food sensitivities and people that are trying to eat differently. So that's a good place to go. Dr. G's Neighborhood, or even like looking at what Sarah Young's doing. I usually post her stuff on mine too, because she's coming up with some very creative things. And I think together as a community, as we come across new, inventive things to do, it's going to help everybody else. So that's really the goal of all this. So, does anybody know what the Latin word for inflammation is? It sounds like a superhero, and I think it would be a great name. But it's called Inflammo. So Inflammo, doesn't that sound like a superhero? The Adventures of Captain Inflammo. Sounds like he flames stuff. Might be gay. It would be a gay superhero. Inflammo. And it also means, I set a light, I ignite. And so it actually has a positive to it there, right? So Edna's saying that inflammation is bad. But when is inflammation good? Can it be good? What do you guys think? So that's always a good point, is can inflammation be a beneficial thing to us? And it's always a good question. Like when Holly's here, it's always like ask questions, but there's such a long delay between like when everybody answers for it. So Beverly says never. So what if you get cut and you want it to heal? Or what if you have an infection and you want it to heal? So part of like the healing process is actually inflammation. And so short term, I guess the real answer is, if it's short term it's good, but when it's chronic it's bad. So just like Kellyanne said there, right? So Kellyanne said the same thing. The speed of the healing is what really determines whether it's good or bad. So if it's short term it's good, if it's chronic it's bad. And that's when we start to really notice things. So I want to read a few things here that I looked up. I always explain stuff in the same way, but I want to try a little bit different things. But inflammation is the body's attempt to self-protect, to remove harmful stimuli, and begin the healing process. So when you see that, then it's like, oh man, healing's our friend, or inflammation's our friend. It's trying to heal. And it's only when it can't that it becomes the issue. So inflammation is the first stage of the body's immune response. So anytime you get like a bacterial infection, a sinus infection, you want inflammation because that inflammation is going to drive the healing process. And inflammation is followed by supination, which is a great word. That's when you get the pus. So every boy and lots of tomboy girls, right? You wreck your bike or get all scratched up, and then you get like a little redness there, and then you get a bunch of oozing there, and that pus is that supination. That's the goo that's coming out. And really what's happening there is it's causing an inflammatory process that's leading to the defeat of all the bacterial infection that's going on there. So all the bacteria that's on the skin is now in this wound. And then it'll scab up to protect. Now, if you use lavender oil, it's freaking amazing because it won't scab up, it won't get oozy, it just heals. And so part of making inflammation, say from like a scratch or a wound, to go from that beneficial part to skipping the chronicity of it or making it damaging to the skin where you leave scar tissue, that's where things like lavender oil come in beautifully, because lavender oil is an essential oil, so it's like 6,000 pounds of flowers compressed into a pound of oil, and it's really potent therapeutic. And when you put that on there, it's an antibiotic, but it actually stimulates tissue growth. So it's wonderful. Very, very wonderful way to heal things up without them looking all gross. And then you got to eat the scab, right? So you get stronger. Everybody does that, right? Not just me. Pretty sure everybody does that. So now, if you're really, that's when you know you got a really good friend, is if you eat their scabs, and then you get their power, right? Which is good because it has all the dead bacteria and stuff in there, so your immune system gets stronger. So it's like natural immunization. It's good for you. People should sell that on the internet, like maybe a new Etsy or Etsy maybe product. I don't know. The other thing that's really good for that is sage. So when I go hiking, I always look for sage plants because rarely do I hike on the trail. I always try to go off trail. And if you hike in, especially in the south, there's lots of these thorny bushes everywhere. And so you end up with all these scratches on your hands and legs and arms. And so I just pick wild sage up and I rub that sage on those cuts. And by the end of the hike, you can't tell that there was anything going on there. So wild sage or sage oil would be really good. But really, I think the vast majority of essential oils are antibiotics, especially like rosemary and thyme and tea tree. Tea tree was an interesting one because people would be sick and they would go to this special pond. I believe this is the story. They would go to this special pond in Australia, and they would heal, and they couldn't figure out why it was so healing. But it turned out there was tea trees around there, and their leaves dropped in the water, and it created a medicinal pond. Isn't that crazy? That's really awesome. So, inflammation short term is stimulating the immune system, stimulating the healing process, and speeding up recovery and fighting infections. So that's always really good. And I love this part here. It says, although scientists know that inflammation plays the key role in heart disease and several other illnesses, what drives inflammation in the first place is still a mystery. And so that's from, that actually sentence is from WebMD. And I love that because it's just like, inflammation is what leads to all disease. We don't know what causes it. But we do. We do know what causes it. So that's where, like, it says that it's the key role in heart disease. And that's where we talk about, it's not cholesterol that causes heart disease. Countries with high cholesterol have low heart disease, like 70% less heart attacks and strokes. Countries that artificially lower the cholesterol, they have more heart attacks and strokes. And that's America. We're doing it. So now 70% of all people that come in to the ER for heart attack or stroke have artificially lowered cholesterol below 200. So, it's just a scam. And I love that they put that on there, that it's really inflammation, because inflammation is the cause of heart disease. So, in short term, that's not a big deal, but it's really that long term. It's that slowing in the healing process, delays in the healing process, inflammatory markers that do that. And if you've been a patient before, we talk a lot about inflammation, and we talk a lot about omega-3 versus omega-6. So like people eat animals that eat corn, the high omega-6 in the fat. We eat that fat, and then it becomes inflammation for us, and then we have knee pain, heart pain, and headaches, and shoulder pains. It's just from what we're eating. We're just eating inflammation in that way. So then it goes to, I wanted to read the part 2. This is kind of interesting. So our innate immunity, so that's the immunity that we were passed on from mom, that we're built in, is what we naturally present in our bodies when we're born, and not the adapted immunity that we get after, things like vaccinations or infections. And really the vast majority of your adaptive immune system is from like babies traveling down mom's vagina and just being coated with good bacteria, and then being exposed to every gross thing. So like all the moms that are like, wash your hands before you touch the baby, and that baby eats off the floor. that baby will chew shoes. That baby will eat the carpet, right? Every gross thing you think, that baby's going to try to put in their mouth and touch and then put in their mouth. It's fine. It's all fine. You want your baby to be exposed to all kinds of the good stuff because that's how they build their immune system. That's that adaptive immune system. So, the innate, the one you're born with, is generally non-specific, although that will have mom's immune system for the first 6 months. So whatever blood the baby has is really mom's blood. And so even though they say it's blank slate, it's not. It has mom's antigens. That's where if moms get food sensitivities tests done, then that's what the baby should follow for the first, say, 6 months, maybe 9 months, because it's the same blood. So that adaptive immune system, big chunk of that is inflammation. And that's why short-term inflammation is so powerful on there. So chronic. Chronic's the bad one, short-term's the good one. And I love the way that they say this. Chronic inflammation is the failure to eliminate whatever is causing the inflammation. So what are some of those causes? I mean, I always think of like something, like my practice is very simple a lot of times because it's just figure out the cause, remove the cause, the patient gets better, right? So there's just like this, they're saying chronic inflammation will keep persisting until you get rid of the cause. And so think of like the lion, and I don't remember what the story is, but there's a lion, he has a thorn in his paw, and right, every time he walks around it hurts. And that's going to persist until you take the thorn out. So in my practice, all we do is we tell people to take the thorns out, right? We just figure out what those causes are. And so a lot of times that's that dietary stuff. A lot of times, so it all starts with what's called arachidonic acid. And I'll post some charts after this that'll make a little bit more sense. they may not, because they are a little bit complicated. But one of the charts will have some basic nutrition stuff, which we've already talked about, like turmeric and boswellia. We talked about essential fatty acids and how they block certain enzymes. And those enzymatic pathways are what then leads to pain. So you have tissue damage, arachidonic acid, COX-1, COX-2, 5-lipid oxidase pathway. And those three doorways then, or three pathways, lead to pain and inflammation. So the goal is always to block those three pathways. Or, what we really want to do is, why are we making the arachidonic acid? What is the chronic insult to the body? And that's truly how you fix chronic inflammation or persistent kind of inflammation for patients. I mean, that's the real way. Now, medication-wise, all they do is they medicate that person for life, and that's why 3 out of every 4 Americans is now chronically managing a chronic disorder. Isn't that crazy? So, that's crazy. I love talking to my patients about this stuff because we talk about how like chewing gum is all made from gasoline now, and how strawberry shakes are flavored with 40 different chemicals, mostly made from petroleum waste products. And then you talk about how other countries do these things, and they don't do these things. And it just seems like lunacy, just absolute lunacy, that we poison our people for profit and then turn around and act like we don't know the cause. Which I have that textbook from 1910, I think I showed you guys before. But it's for a children's elementary school, and it talks about all the same stuff. All the stuff we talk about, it talks about it way back in 1910, right? So, then we look at what are some of the most common chronic disorders that you guys can think of? Like, what do you have family or friends suffering from that you think's chronic disorders? And so Edna says she hasn't taken med for 14 years. So that's pretty good. Yeah. I'm always surprised, sometimes patients will say like they come in, they're usually on tons of meds. And occasionally you'll have these people that are just like, yeah, I haven't taken any meds in like 20 years, And that's amazing, but it's not if they treat food as medicine. And we're going to go through some really interesting kind of protocols that we might try. And so Josh says heart disease, right? And so we talked about that's an inflammatory process. And that's a really important one. Brianna, diabetes, that's especially one. Now, type 1 is autoimmune, usually due to bread, but it's what's called secondary molecular mimicry. That's a pretty simple thing theoretically to fix, but we also have had, I've had one case recently that we were able to reverse the type 1 diabetes pretty fast. Now, type 2 is usually the one we think of really with inflammation, and that is a horrible inflammatory process. Nobody dies of diabetes. They die of all the inflammatory consequences of that. And Brianna said Crohn's. Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, those are very damaging chronic inflammatory ones. Again, they're what's called secondary molecular mimics. So usually we're just causing those, find out the cause, eliminate that, gut's back to normal. Now, yeah, Josh, so like arthritis, that's a really big one. That one is, I think that's way more common. And arthritis is a really interesting one. And we'll talk about like Dupuytren's contractures or trigger fingers with that. So like connective tissue inflammation. So instead of being arthritis, which is bone inflammation or joint inflammation, but like the soft tissue inflammation too, it's the same thing. And so I can't tell you how many patients come in and they're just like, I'm going to have to get knee surgery. And then after like 6 weeks of going through everything, they're making all these changes. And then you go to reevaluate and you're like, so how are things going? How is this? How is this? How are your knees? And they're like, which knee was that? And you're like, hell yeah, that's awesome. So all they were doing was eating inflammation. And that's that big, big, big switch when it comes to inflammatory diets, is stop eating inflammatory diets and start eating anti-inflammatory diets, and very quickly those chronic things disappear, like arthritis. But I've had two really interesting cases where we had a trigger finger patient. So their finger looks like this, and there's a tendon that runs through here, and there's a tendon that runs through here, and then there's little circular annular tendons that run around that, and that prevents it from having just a string that goes from here to here. So it's here to here to here, there to your muscle, right? So trigger finger, they have to push that back up, and all that's happening is there's a little ring in the this looks perverted, right? There's a little ring of fibers, and then there's the tendon trying to go through there. Take this back to 7th grade. But if this is inflamed here, and so we'll kind of make a knuckle there, and then it's hard to go through until you force it through, right? I can't escape it. All right. So if you get rid of that inflammation, then that tendon will pass through that ligament really, really easily, and then the trigger finger goes away. And so that same patient was just like, "So how's your trigger finger?" And they're like, well, I guess I don't have it anymore, right? And that's awesome because they never taught me in school that you could reverse that. They just said, you get injections or surgery, and that's how you do it. The other thing, Josh, that's not appropriate. So, I don't know. So, the other one was I had a patient with Dupuytren's contracture. And so basically those tendons are locked down like this, and they have a little fused area here, and their hands usually looks like this. It's down. So all they do is surgery really to try to fix that if they can, but that adds more scar tissue. And that patient, I think we did proteolytic enzymes too, so I think it was probably streptokinase maybe, or maybe nattokinase, probably streptokinase. They're like Repair Gold by Enzymedica is like the best proteolytic enzyme that I've used with patients. I've gotten the best success from that one. But that patient had that Dupuytren contracture, and so as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, we've seen that before. But how are we going to fix it? And so we did the anti-inflammatory diet, stop eating inflammation, start eating anti-inflammation, start taking things to just digest that scar tissue. And that's where those proteolytic enzymes, lumbricase, nattokinase, serratiopeptidase, those eat fibrin, which is scar tissue, without eating the rest of your tissue. So it's really good. And then that patient came back in, and it all worked. there's no Dupuytren contracture there. So like that's one of the worst inflammatory things that you can physically see, and yet the body's designed to heal. So once you figure out that cause, and then say, well, how do we undo it? Then all of a sudden it works. So yeah, I think it was Edna that said like getting gluten out of her diet. Gluten's a huge inflammatory one. Dairy also. Dairy has the casein, the whey. A lot of people do whey protein, but it is a highly, highly inflammatory one. And it's cross-reactive for autoimmune conditions. So some people will be like pretty good for a while, but then they'll end up with other problems. Which, if you think about it, I mean, you don't really need whey. Like a horse doesn't take whey protein. A gorilla doesn't take whey protein. Elephant doesn't do whey protein. But if you did a vegan one or a vegetable protein shake, basically the powder is made from peas. And so you think about this like, I could just eat peas and get super strong and then not have the inflammatory part. Wouldn't that be awesome, right? So, still stuck on Josh's meme there. So, that's pretty good. So, asthma is inflammatory. Ulcers, reflux is even inflammatory. Rheumatoid we talked about. Sinusitis, that's a big one. People have a lot of sinus issues there too. And so with sinusitis, it's just this chronic irritation of those sinus passages. And then as that little tube gets swollen, it binds up together. And then you have fluid being made, and then it creates pressure. And then you have that, like I just want to drill a hole like right here. And then it just sprays out. If you've had sinus pressure, you know what I'm talking about. Like you just want to, like if I could just do that thing. So that kind of stuff, yeah, even like short term, that still sucks. That's really, really bad. So I'm going to talk about some old school remedies. And I like the stuff that like, you know, your parents used to do or your grandparents used to do when you were sick. Other cultures still do this stuff. A lot of it's Ayurvedic medicine, which is still practiced today. And all medicine was natural medicine until we started synthesizing nature and making pharmaceuticals. So, although this might seem new, it's been forever. And one of the things, so talking about treatment part, but one of the things that like Hippocrates said was never treat by the chemist's pot that which you can treat by diet first. And so what really long-term for chronicity is never, ever even do natural medicine if you're just causing the problem, right? The body's designed to work. If you're on a desert island, hopefully not completely desert, but you wouldn't have to figure out how to make things work. The body would just work. You'd eat food and it just work. Just like a zebra does, just like an elephant does. Things just work until we mess it up. But you might want to have things heal faster. So, a couple ideas here. Is one, rosemary and herbs like that, like thyme, rosemary, sage, oregano, those are very powerful antibiotics, but they're also very powerful antioxidants. So those are what are called NRF2s, and those actually, and same thing with turmeric's in there, those will actually knock down pain. Sorry. I added one on, and I usually don't say that. But they are one of those powerful anti-aging medicines. They're 100,000 times more antioxidant than vitamin A, C, or E. So when you talk about the inflammatory part, that's really important because that's going to knock down the basic oxidized inflammation that leads to the chronic problems. So those herbs are awesome for that. But if you take those leaves, and I used to grow these in my office, they're very powerful for muscle cramps and then pain and swelling. And so most people don't think of rosemary. I always think of rosemary as an antibiotic. I don't typically think of it as an anti-inflammatory, but it is. And so the old school way is you take 8 cups of water and you boil 3 ounces of dried rosemary leaves, or they could be fresh ones. And you really should steep them if they're fresh, which is where you kind of pummel them, and that releases the oils so they're more medicinal, which is like the French cooking or European cooking. You always heat your oil, then put your herbs in there, so it releases the oils. Put your onion, garlic in, then you put your food in. But Americans, we usually put the herbs in last, which then doesn't release the oils, and then stuff's more bland when you have that, and less medicinal. So you put those 3 ounces of dried leaves in there, and you can do more. And then remove it from the heat and let it steep for 20 minutes. So basically, you're making a diluted rosemary tea. And you let that steep for 20 minutes. And then you soak that area in that water for 15 minutes. And you can do that 2 to 3 times a day. So this is a little bit different approach. I mean, some people will do rosemary oil for that. So they have really concentrated medicinal properties. So that's a 6,000-to-1 ratio. But also, just a very simple, like if you pull some rosemary plants, throw it in some water, steep it, and then soak your feet in those, it'll knock that pain and inflammation out. So if you have like heel spurs, swollen arches, those kind of stuff, that'll really help with that. And then you'll have feet rosemary water, and you could probably make soup out of that. Then feed it to someone you don't like. Cammie, so she's asking about IBS, and IBS should be able to be fixed like that. IBS, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, they're some of the easiest possible things to fix. GERD, eczema, psoriasis, very, very easy things to fix. It's just figuring out what's causing it, eliminating it, and it goes away. And so a lot of times it's just wheat and dairy. That's the simple answer. Get rid of those for 2 weeks, see if it goes away. If not, a lot of times it's things you just have to do an IgG delayed food sensitivity test for. And then once you get those, then it's gone. Like very, well, I don't know, 98% of the time, maybe 2 out of 100 patients, we have to do a lot extra work. But otherwise, yeah, it's very, very simple stuff. So it's just that it's a histamine inflammatory process caused by secondary molecular mimicry through T-cell dysregulation. That's the simple answer. So Brianna says, what about nerve pain in the feet? So that should work the same way. Now, typically neuropathies, you want to do lots of B vitamins for. A lot of times we don't eat B-rich foods, like beans, greens, fermented foods, and then we exhaust them through the adrenal pathways, so we make lots of stress, lots of anxiety, but then we don't have enough extra for our nerves. And so then we end up with B deficiency neuropathies, or the medications that people take will deplete B vitamins like crazy. So theoretically, that would be a good way to start, is see if that rosemary, that'll absorb into the skin, and it should help affect those nerves to knock down neuropathies if that's the cause. And how long, was it, Carolyn says, how long does it take to get the food sensitivities back? And I posted those if you guys want to look at those. I posted mine, but about 2 weeks. So they put your blood in into a culture, and then they put an antigen from a food in there, and they do that like 184 different foods, and then they wait to see if your T cells correctly or incorrectly identify the pathogen or the antigen of the food. So if they identify it, they say, it's a food, I'm not going to attack it, and then nothing happens. But then if it mistakes that for a virus, a parasite, or fungus, or yeast, then it attacks that, and it'll change the color of the medium, and then they grade the reaction by how severely that reacted. And these are delayed sensitivities, so they usually take days to happen. So usually about 2 weeks is how long it takes to get back. And it's just a simple blood draw. So, but I posted mine so you guys could see mine, and make sure that as I'm posting food, I got in trouble a few times, and I still dicked around drinking the green tea instead of the white tea, and then I still had that persistent cough. So I finally just got, I couldn't find white tea at the store, so I got chamomile and something, citrus chamomile tea. So then it's like, fine, I don't like the coughing all the time, so I followed my food sensitivities. Even though I like green tea, it's killing me. So now mustard oil, I like a mustard pack because mustard packs seem like so old school to me. Like my mom used to rub all kinds of crap on my chest. Now I have 4 daughters, and it's always like, oh, this happened? Well, you need to do this. And they're all like, I don't want to do that. Well, then you're going to hurt, and you're going to stay sick longer. You got to do something, or else you're going to get no change in results. So I always tell regale about stories of what my mom used to do, putting lots of Vicks vapor rub on there because the menthol on my chest, and it's just crazy. But there used to be this mustard pack that you'd put on, and then I think there was like a pad that you put over it, and so it absorbs in and not absorbs in the clothes. But here's one remedy. So chop 10 garlic cloves, and really for like sore throat, coughing, strep, man, if you steep minced garlic for just until it gets cool enough to drink, that'll usually kick anything's butt, any kind of infection's butt. But for anti-inflammatory, chop 10 cloves of garlic, because again, I think of like the 100 active biochemicals in there against parasite, fungus, yeast. I don't typically think of it as an antibiotic. I mean, I think of it as an antibiotic, not as a anti-inflammatory. So that's what I'm trying to do, is add things that we haven't talked about before. So heat them up, 4 teaspoons of mustard oil. And mustard oil is pretty popular in non-American foods, but you can buy that at the health food store, or especially at an Asian market. Like here we have Thai Ben, which would be great. And then add pieces of camphor into it. You might be more likely to find camphor oil than camphor chunks, for sure. Maybe you could get it on Amazon. Camphor is awesome. That's great for like toenail infections and preventing athlete's foot, treating athlete's foot. It's a very potent antibiotic. And I told you guys, I made that video a while back. I had that sore thing in the back of my throat, and I don't know what the hell that was, but it was just a sore line, but nothing was really red except for that one line. And so I was putting camphor oil on my finger and sticking it back and rubbing it on there, and really getting in there, and to the point where it almost made me gag a few times. And if you guys watched that video, you got to watch me try to gag myself, so that was awesome. Actually, what really helped was Holly kept telling me, "Oh, you got to dry peppermint oil," and I was just like, I don't think that's an antibiotic, or like, that's not a typical one. I think camphor would be better. But so the camphor, I think, knocked it down like 50%, but it wasn't going away. And so then I started using peppermint oil. Yeah, peppermint oil and clove oil, because the clove oil numbed it out, so then it didn't hurt, so I could talk and drink and eat and not have problems. So I'd start with the peppermint oil, and then I put clove oil back there. Again, not drinking it, just applying it by my finger. And that really kicked its butt. I mean, I think it was like 3 days and it was gone. So that was really powerful. Again, not my usual thing. But that's the wonderful thing about natural remedies for like inflammation, antibiotics. There's thousands of different things that work. So chop the 10 cloves of garlic, put it in the mustard oil, 4 tablespoons. Add some camphor oil to it, or chunks of camphor if you have it. And then let it cool down, strain it, and just massage it into the affected area. So if you had, say, foot pain or you had shoulder pain, you could do that. Now, it'll be really strong. It'll smell like you're treating something. Like people complain about the Bengay smell. We call this the Ben Natural smell. It'll smell interesting. Probably attract a lot of Italian women with the garlic too. And then you have ginger, which we always talk about. But we always talk about taking ginger pills, like 350 milligrams, 1 to 3 times a day. Turmeric we do like the same way, maybe 500 milligrams. But doing fresh ginger is a little bit different. So this is kind of old school, right? So 4 tablespoons of ginger, freshly grated, and then basically, if I do this at home, I use that little sock, tea sock. If you guys know what I'm talking about, basically it's a little ring, and then you have like a little sock there, and then you put your tea in there, or you put your coffee in there, and then you put it in the cup, and then you pull it out. But you can just use a piece of cloth for this too. But put that in hot water until it cools down. So you're basically steeping it, but you want to take the garlic out, and then soak your foot in that. Or sorry, put it on your foot. And so they're talking about 3 cups of ginger tea a day would get similar effects, but that has to go everywhere. So you're going to take that cloth and you're going to wrap it around. So you take that ginger, steep it, and so that's going to infuse it, and then you wrap whatever, like your foot or arm or elbow, in that. One of the things I've never tried before, but it's a very popular one, is what's called Devil's Claw. And if you guys have questions, please post. And then also, if you have your own remedies that work awesome or fabulous, let me know too. So again, interaction is the most important part, because we all have this like really great knowledge, and we have all these things that, like, what did my grandma try that worked really well when I was a kid? Share that with the group, please. So the Devil's Claw is from South Africa, which is the most racist part of Africa. Those Dutch are jerks, but never trust the Dutch or white people. So, South African herb, very powerful medicine, and basically it's really good for pain, inflammation, especially like neck and shoulder kind of stuff, really tight joints or tight muscles. And you do the same thing where you're going to boil it, and the Devil's Claw is like roots. If I remember, when you pull it out, it just looks like this, like it looks like it's going to get you. And so it should form a really strong tea, and then you're going to basically put that on the affected area, or soak it in the infected area. And then turmeric. Now there's lots and lots of stuff on turmeric. Everybody loves turmeric. And turmeric is one of the most powerful anti-cancer medicines. So really what that means is it's going to be something that is very potent for your immune system. Cami, I'll post those on there. I'll post a few images that will explain some of this, maybe, if you take it to the next level. I'm a super nerd, so I love like diagrams and charts and biochemical pathways. So for some people, you guys will love that. Others, it'll be like more confusing, but yeah, once I get done with this, I'll post. And the other thing is, as we finish this too, feel free to keep posting questions. If you guys watch this when it's not live, still ask questions, and I'll go through and I'll keep trying to answer those. Usually we get about 100 comments or so, so I usually go through those within a couple days and try to get things answered. Sometimes it takes me a couple days to get to it, but I will answer those questions for you guys. So if you have really complicated questions, feel free to post those, and we'll get it figured out for you. So turmeric milk is one of those things that you'll see on the internet a lot. And turmeric milk is actually really good. I can't do it because it's part of my food sensitivities. And I did turmeric, and then I got in trouble because I posted it, and then my people who are following me were like, "Dr. Gary, you're not supposed to have turmeric, are you?" And so then I was like, damn it. Because it's so healthy. So healthy. I'm surprised that there is quite a few people that have turmeric sensitivities. You wouldn't think so. But turmeric, which is just an orange root, right? So you grind that up, or you can use the powder. And so it's 1 cup, and it says milk, but really we want almond milk, coconut milk, hazelnut milk, hemp milk, something like that. And then add about 1 tablespoon of turmeric powder. So it's quite a bit. With the turmeric powder, 1/10 of it is curcuminoids. So, but there's also all these other wonderful medicinal qualities besides just the curcuminoid in there. And then heat it up over a low flame and drink it twice a day. And that'll speed up your healing process. A lot of people will do this, especially Ayurvedic, they'll do it at night for like, you know how like the old school, like drink a glass of warm milk before bed and you'll sleep better? Instead of getting all that estrogen, drink a glass of almond milk with a tablespoon of turmeric in there, and then it'll knock down dramatic amounts of inflammation in you while you go to sleep. So, Cami, let's see, I love the herbal stuff and essential oils. What about valerian root for the inflammation? So, someone today, who was it? It was John Pick, had posted, I can't wait for valerian, and I was just like, oh, that's awesome, this dude's all hyped up about this, but apparently he's talking about the movie that's coming out. So, I got suckered into that. I was watching Fight Club a couple weeks ago, maybe. And it's interesting because I never noticed this, but right in the beginning, he's having all this trouble sleeping. He can't sleep. He has insomnia. And he's just begging the doctor for a medication, begging him for a medication. And the doctor refused to give him medication. And you know what he told him to take? Valerian root. Isn't that awesome? That's really interesting that that's in that movie like that. So valerian root is a wonderful way of knocking down pain and inflammation, especially through the inflammatory process. So anytime my neck is all stiff, or I've been like doing too much computer work, or not having good biomechanics, if I think, oh my God, I need to go to the chiropractor, I need to, think like you need a muscle relaxer or something like that. That's when it's like, oh yeah, valerian. I'll take valerian. So valerian works off of benzodiazepine pathways, but is non-addictive for things like anxiety and kind of hyper reactions like that. But it also is a natural muscle relaxer that relaxes you at your muscles, not at your brain. So like if you take Sclaxin or one of those medications, it basically makes you just like, oh, I don't feel cramping anymore, but I can't drive or go to work. So it's not helpful. But valerian root, boy, by morning you will feel like rock solid. And typically that is like rock solid for most everybody. Like there's only a couple patients where, well, that's for sleep. So they just have problems with sleep. Yeah. So 98% of the time it always works for sleep, but it only is its half-life is like 1 to 2 hours. So sometimes you have to get the extended release for that. And then Brianna was talking about being careful about brands. We went through a couple before we found relief with a GMA one, or with Gaia brand. That's true. There was that study that they did a few months ago, or maybe a year ago now, where they did DNA testing for active ingredients from products from like Walmart and GNC, and they found 0 active ingredients in a lot of the products. Didn't take them off the market, let them keep selling it. Like even one was St. John's wort, which is for depression. Why would you let them sell that? It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, stick with legitimate brands. And typically if you're going to try something new, try it from the health food store first. And so something like Natural Grocers is almost always legitimate brands. Natural, of course, when I've been in there, they seem to have really good brands. Some health food stores will have some crap and some good that are just profit centers. And so if you take valerian and you say, well, it was a low dose valerian or it was poor quality, then you say, well, it doesn't work. So that's where it's like, make sure you're taking the therapeutic quality, therapeutic dose with no toxic ingredients, and then once you know how it works and how you feel with it, then you might be able to experiment. So I have valerian from several different brands, and then I also have, in a pinch, I bought some from Walmart. And I think it works, but I know the other two like kick butt. So I think it's just less effective, So your turmeric milk is awesome. And we actually had a patient once that he had this crack on his heel that wouldn't heal. His heel wouldn't heal. Yeah, I think there's a poem in there. So we made a turmeric paste, and it stained his skin yellow. And he came in and grabbed that. I didn't tell him that would stain his skin. But turmeric is usually used to be used as a way to dye clothes too. So if you ever want to do natural clothing dyeing, you just use turmeric. And the last one is cayenne pepper. Now, cayenne, like all hot peppers, have capsaicin in there. And that is a very powerful pain reliever and knocks down inflammation. So hot sauce, chili peppers, always really, really good. And especially for dilating blood vessels, preventing heart attacks, strokes, that kind of stuff, it's awesome. But with this, what we want to do is, which, by the way, where's the cayenne essential oils? Right? Where are they? That would be awesome. You know how freaking much that would burn? A 6,000:1 ratio of cayenne pepper oil? That'd be badass. That would be like what you dare. That'd be a jackass thing, right? Stick that in your eye. Alright, so this time we're going to just, make a mellow version of it. So 1 tablespoon of cayenne powder, and that's nice because you can get that anywhere. And then 2 tablespoons of oil. So it's a 1-to-2 ratio with that. And then you mix that up and put it on the affected area, and then put a gauze or something so it doesn't permeate anything else. And wash the hell out of your hands, because sure enough, like if you like for guys, if you're like putting peppermint oil somewhere and then you go to pee, then all of a sudden things start tingling, and you're like, oh yeah, I didn't get all the peppermint oil off. Oh, and I was going to tell you too. Talk about inflammation. I did that yoga in the park, and then we did meditation, and I'm sitting in the hot ass sun, and I used my Aubrey's Organics because I was pretty pale starting out here to prevent it from burning, but I didn't reapply, and so I guess after 2 hours I should have reapplied. And so I'm sitting there in the hot sun, and we're just meditating, and I'm like thinking, pretty sure I'm going to get burned. And so I just turned bright red, all here and here, but mostly on this side it was all bright red. And I don't know if you can tell. Da-da-da-da, see? Like you can barely see it anymore. But what I did was I used lavender oil. So I had lavender oil is perfect for burns. Like if you get burnt by water, burnt by an iron, like Janet Jackson in Good Times, which wasn't a very good time, right? Especially sunburns, though. You put that lavender oil on. So I just took it, and I after my shower, I'd drip it all over, and then I'd rub it all on, and then it should knock down that redness, and it should prevent the damage that leads to the pain and inflammation, and then the loss of skin for the sunburn. And then I took my Everyday Shea oil, and then I put that on over it, just to help moisturize it and protect it. And so I gotta say, man, that is always a freaking miracle when it comes to sunburns. So talk about pain and inflammation, sunburns, big time cause of chronic inflammation there. All right. So, questions, concerns, comments, bad jokes. Let me know what you have. Keep posting. Now next week I want to hear if you guys are doing the wellness challenge. I want to know what you guys are thinking, how you're feeling, kind of what your challenges are, what your roadblocks. Again, I really haven't. I know Holly had lots and lots of issues with it because of stress and all these things. So she was more of a typical patient than I was. I was pretty headstrong, except I'm doing the meditation, I'm doing some yoga, I'm doing walking, but I really need probably more vigorous exercise. So post all you want, talk a bunch of smack about me, try to get me motivated, and I'll do that. But I need to, you guys got to hold me accountable, so I need to start posting what did I do as far as above and beyond. And Cami, before we leave, we had lavender oil better than aloe vera. So real aloe vera, real aloe vera is like pull it off the plant, put it on you. Has mannose in there, D-mannose, which is really good. It's a good glyconutrient, very very effective. But that is really good. Now you have to buy it at a health food store because at like Walmart and Walgreens, it's full of chemicals, which I don't understand. But the stuff that you buy in the store is not the same as what you get from the actual plant. And so a lot of those things have enzymatic processes that kind of degrade. And so, yes, aloe vera is really good, and it's still a staple for sunburns. But really, lavender oil is going to be your strongest, most powerful anti-inflammatory for a sunburn. And hell, do both. Just get pure aloe vera. Used to, you'd get it in the travel size. It was just one ingredient, aloe vera. But the bigger ones, they always have blue coloring and yellow coloring. I don't understand why they poison us. So maybe at the health food store too, you can get that. If you go to the Asian store like Tai Bin, you can get an aloe leaf like that big. And what you do is you pill it with your carrot pillar, and then you chop it up, and then you put it in a jar and put it in the freezer. And then that helps preserve it. So then when you want to use it, then you would pull it out, mash it up, maybe mix it with a few things, then put it on. So, Carolyn asks, is sugar in your diet really one of the main causes of inflammation, and that's a hell to the yeah. Yeah, that is a very big one when it comes to inflammation. Now, not naturally occurring things that are sweet. So if you eat lots of fruit and berries that are really sweet, awesome. Those are curative, anti-inflammatory, healthy things. But it's the added sugar that we use. And two of the most inflammatory ones outside of just sucrose is agave. Agave is kind of touted as a natural thing, but agave is processed in the same way as high fructose corn syrup. And of course the other one's high fructose corn syrup. And they're so inflammatory that they actually damage the liver and cause non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, which then leads to cirrhosis of the liver just through food, not alcohol. And then Jenny had a question, is aloe vera when drinking good for intestinal inflammation? And it is. Again, it's not as, if you can get fresh or you can get it from like the big leaves from the store, that is way better than some processed thing that they have on the store shelves for 6 months, 9 months. So raw is better, fresher is better, but if you have aloe vera juice and it seems to be working for you, then it's probably still going to have medicinal qualities there. So that's still fine. All right, you guys. I'm going to run to, I don't know if it's like the 100th year anniversary for the Padillas, but they've been married forever. And keep posting stuff. Let's keep the conversation going. And what we'll do is we'll meet back on Tuesdays at 7, our usual time. So I know this was a different time. So back Tuesday at 7. And then we'll have another topic. And if you guys would, post what you want to hear about next week. All right? So if you think of something really interesting, I know Jenny, you talked about inflammation, so that's why we're talking about that tonight, and a few other people. So we want to make sure that we're serving you guys, and maybe we need to have like a food panel, and we need to try some really interesting stuff, and then see what people think about it. So we're going to try to maybe find some creative things that we can do too. So, yeah, and Brianna said how to select a supplement. As the topic? Yeah, that's a great idea. Ooh, reading labels of some of those things too would be great. People all the time like, oh, what do you think of this brand? And usually it's just a horrible nightmare of chemicals that you wouldn't think would be in there. Especially the ones that are always like, oh, it's just so healthy. It doesn't have any of these bad things in it. It's the best thing ever. And it cures everything, and then when you look at the ingredients, you're like, yeah, that's horrible. So yeah, how to read or how to find supplements, that's great. And Brianna, that's a really good one, because I remember the first few years of practice, I just tell people, just go to the health food store and just pick a good brand, therapeutic dose, no toxic crap, and then they would come back with crap all the time. And they'd have some like salesman there that'd be like, this is our most popular. And so I was just like, what the hell is wrong with these people? They can't go there. It's a health food store, right? So then I went to get some stuff and to make some notes for patients. And I was just like, holy crap, this is crazy. So there was just so many brands and they were all so different. And it was just like, what the hell should people really do? So I apologize to all those early patients that I just blindly sent. I'm so sorry. So no, that would be a great one. I actually went with a list of like everything that I usually prescribe to, I think it was Natural Course and then Natural Grocers, and then found brands that met my criteria. But it was a hell of a process. My goodness. Oh yeah, and Natural Ways for Anxiety, Depression, that's usually a pretty easy one to fix. A lot of that's lifestyle stuff. But all right, keep it up. Post those. I'll see you guys next week. And let me know if you have any questions. Otherwise, thank you guys for this. Please share and like this video. We'll try to help as many people as we can. All right? Bye, you guys.